Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And I once again have too many windows open, so I'm
Uh,
trying to find where our conversation is so I can start sharing the screen.
Yes, and hopefully tonight I don't sound like I'm talking in a tunnel. Um, but good to see you as always, Ninja.
Oh, hey, Ninja.
Um, well, if you're returning, welcome back. If you're new, what we usually do is we do a bunch of reviews. We review something new on the that's come out in the let's say in the last year or so.
Yeah, we give ourselves a little bit of fudge room if it seems like it's relevant again. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like something old, something new, and just a smattering of whatever else we felt like watching that week.
Indeed, along with our new custom of reviewing the latest X-Men '97 episode.
hmm
But before we get into all of that, we like to talk about the box office.
Yes, the weekly box office beating, because oof.
Yeah.
Like this is a bad sign, people. Like I think they kind of blew their load too early in the year.
Yes. Yeah. Too many movies in March. Yeah.
Right, and we're. I guess let's just go down the list here.
Yeah.
So Civil War had um, it dropped 56% week over week, which is not a good sign,
Nope.
especially when they had a relatively light opening to start with, something like 25 million, I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
For like, it is the premiere movie right now. It
Yeah.
is not acting like the premiere movie right now.
No, it is not.
I suspect that. So I think back to the 2016 election year, and what I noticed there is that in that year they had Batman v Superman and Avengers come out,
Right.
and I couldn't help but think at the time, was that intentional to have like movies about division in an election year?
Yeah. Yeah. You,
Like,
you wonder. Yeah.
or was that just a coincidence because they were these big slow moving they were these big slow moving shared universes. So, like, what are the odds that they really planned it out that much?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. We'll talk about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Welfare here in a
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. I think that Civil War it's a movie that would be kind of unpleasant to watch under any circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in a year where people are feeling divided, it's probably too close to home. Like there was this comic book universe that I forget the name of the comic now, but J. Michael Straczynski was behind or was a major force behind it. And part of the premise was that superpowers had emerged in a world where people had just come off of a major pandemic that had wiped out a big chunk of the world's population. It's like, oh, dropping in 2020,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
some unfortunate luck there, because you know
Uh,
that anything like that, they were working on it well in advance.
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not surprised that Civil War isn't doing well, but you'd expect other stuff to be picking up the slack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming in next, we have Abigail, which, man, I tell you, I saw the trailer for that ahead of what did I see that? It was probably ahead of Beekeeper.
Oh.
It's probably the movie I would have seen that would have overlapped with that.
Yeah.
I cringed the whole time.
Oh, what is it? Is it a?
So it's like a horror comedy
Oh.
where basically you have this group of, I guess, mercenaries who are told to keep tabs on a little girl that they've captured, and she's a ballerina, but she's also a vampire. And so it's like you're not trapped in here with us.
Oh.
Or I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me scenario, as they're doing with
Ah.
this little girl.
Okay.
It's like a film threat with Alan Ng and the guy who's taking Chris Score's place while he recovers from his stroke. Gave it a tepid review.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Bringing up the rear, we have Godzilla X Kong, with a comparable theater count and per theater average to the major newish releases.
Hmm.
When the movie has now been out for a month.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll probably be hitting hitting max pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully with this one they had the brains to punt it out a while.
Yeah,
'Cause especially with the complete lack of movies for them to release this year. Like this is the year when you want to stretch these things out as far as you can.
indeed. Yeah.
And then bringing up what Ninja saw last weekend, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Yes, with Henry Cavill and Alan Ritson, I think is how you pronounce his name. Um, Jack Reacher. Directed by Guy Ritchie. Ninja enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've mostly heard good things about it. Alan Richson, yeah.
Richson, yeah.
Um, so I've heard a few explanations for this. I think I kind of have to toss out Alan Richson having an anti-police rant as a major reason for the movie to fail because
Yeah.
who would have actually heard about that?
Yeah, I don't think very many people outside of the social media sphere would know about that. I'm guessing. I was watching Midnight's Edge on Monday. I think Tom had a good point that it's not a very good title.
Yeah, it's almost too clever.
Yeah,
I wonder if ungentlemanly warfare would have been shorter and punchier. I'm thinking
yeah,
ungentlemanly. That's a 5-syllable word. That's hard to say in casual conversation.
yeah. It is. Yeah. Well, and that might be a problem with Guy Ritchie is he tries to be really clever with some stuff, and then it just kind of like people just don't get it. He is
Yeah,
British after all. Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, it's something that would work as a book title better than as a movie title.
Yeah.
Because a book title, the only time you would ever have to really say it out loud is if you're asking the person at Barnes and Noble to help you find it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like the reviews I've heard of it have been good. Also, Midnight's Edge After Dark had a long stream where they're debating whether Henry Cavill actually qualified as a movie star or not, as much as he's beloved in nerd circles for being one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, the last two movies he's been in have not done very well, and of course, one of those movies it was a bait and switch with his role in it. So
Right, yeah, Argyle. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, what it seems to me like is that he's a name that people know him, but I wonder if he's just been in enough bad crap that people don't come to see it. He's
yeah,
also had quite a few failures, things like Man from Uncle, for example.
yeah, which is another Guy Ritchie movie.
Oh, was it now?
Yeah,
And Henry, you and Guy are clearly close, but maybe you should
yeah,
yeah, maybe you should pick your parts better.
yeah. Well, although the big problem with that movie was the other actor in it is a really bad guy. Uh,
Oh.
Army Hammer. Yeah. Just Google him sometime, and you'll see what I mean.
Oh, so kind of a thing where, well, it's too late to recast or reshoot.
Right? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that's why they dumped it in August? Okay.
Yeah. Ninja says maybe what's SOE? If it's one of the names of the department. Oh, it must be from the movie.
I can alternate name for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
But
it's only the second worst title of the year, I suppose.
yeah. What was the worst one?
Society of Magical Gamer
Oh,
Words.
magical. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That one.
What do you mean? The American Society of Magical Gamer Words. But
Yes.
as I rattle it off, it's actually easier to say because you don't have to twist your tongue around quite so much, and it's smaller words. So
Right.
that itself is actually an excellent indication of you don't have the best title. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um, moving down the top five, a movie that I actually went to go see, Spy Family Code White,
Mm.
which I'll get into a review of it in a minute. I will say that this one was reasonably full when I went to the theater on a Friday night at 6.
Yeah, 2,000 screens. I mean, that's a pretty good showing there.
Yeah, it isn't quite Dragon Ball Superhero getting a $20 million opening weekend, but
Mm,
for an anime that is well known, that it isn't like one of the shonen staples like a My Hero Academia or a Demon Slayer.
yeah,
I'd call that pretty good.
yeah.
Uh, Decent per theater average. I did notice it seemed to be weighted a bit towards Friday when I was looking at it,
Mm,
which probably implies that if you went to go see it, then you probably self-selected. Yeah, Friday was the big day for it.
yeah,
Although
2 million.
that does kind of Sunday night preview,
Yeah,
or excuse me, Thursday night preview,
yeah. Hmm,
and it's kind of died off during the week. So
yeah,
yeah, it's above 5 million now, but
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, considering that it's a release of a foreign movie, they probably oh boo hoo, we don't have as much gravy on our plate as we would like it because it made 40 million in Japan. So
oh, yeah, yeah.
um,
Kung Fu
then
Panda 4.
yeah, top 10 we don't. The rest of the top 10 we don't really have anything too surprising here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Kung
Dune,
Fu Panda 4.
ooh, Ghostbusters. Well, it finally got 100 million domestic.
Yep. Which considering how expensive it was though, and that it's only made 70 million internationally.
Yeah. Dune Part 2, which is now on video on demand.
Yep. So that's going to hurt it.
Yeah.
By the way, Timothy Chalamet, clearly a star these days,
Yeah.
considering that yeah, he has two big movies with Warner Brothers this year.
Yeah. Yeah. All the tween girls seem to really like her or like
Yeah,
him.
like him.
Ooh,
Oh, oh,
oh, oh, oh,
Freudian
oh,
switch there.
oh, oh.
uh, um, Monkey Man doesn't seem to have been able to swing into a higher box office.
Mm. Nice pun there.
I try. I try. Then we got the First Omen. Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
we were seeing some real signs of life back in March, but again, like they might have just put things out too quickly in an attempt to I mean, I understand part of why they would want to delay some of the, or they wouldn't want to delay some of these movies that were already delayed, because when you're financing a movie, you're taking out loans, and every day the movie isn't released, interest is happening.
You're right. Yeah.
But not encouraging, unfortunately.
No, it isn't. Yeah, and of course, the basically the start of the summer movie season is next Friday, which I don't think there's anything coming out really next Friday.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
That's
Huh.
usually when Marvel puts out their that's when
Yeah.
Marvel would put out their new movie, but I don't think they're
Yeah.
doing anything this year.
Yeah, they basically have Deadpool 3 because apparently um, Falcon Cap's movie was so bad that they're going back and basically reshooting the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
As far as interesting activity here, they put Bob Marley One Love back into 1,000 theaters, so that's interesting.
yeah,
What can we consider? You can watch that on Paramount Plus right now.
yeah, and Late Night with the Devil is in theaters, which that you can watch that on Shutter.
Hmm. Was
Uh,
it okay? So it's week 5 of it.
yeah,
And also we got Shrek 2 at number 12.
yeah,
Apparently they're still finding it worthwhile to keep it in theaters.
yeah. What else do they have?
Yeah, that's true. Well, speaking of blasts from the past involving large beast-like people,
Yes.
it's another week. It's another X-Men 97 review.
Yes, and we're finally picking up with the aftermath of the Geonosia incident.
Incident.
Incident. Yeah.
Yeah. So plot-wise, by the way, we're so deep into the series that assume that anything we say is spoilerific. Why would you start with episode 7?
Right. Yeah.
This isn't broadcast TV where you can happen to catch a late episode in there. If you're starting a streaming show on episode 7, you are making a conscious choice.
Yes.
So yeah, Rogue had a bad time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Uh, We, we got more of Nightcrawler. He actually, I'm really enjoying them giving him more focus. He's one of my
yeah.
favorite X-Men, and he's just was unfortunately because of behind the scenes reasons kind of neglected in the original cartoon. So they're giving him some shine here.
Yes, I'm happy to see that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I say behind the scenes reasons, not like some executive looked at him and said he wouldn't play in Alabama or something. It's more that he wasn't on the core Jim Lee X-Men team at the time because he was off being in Excalibur in the
Ah,
comics. So they
okay.
probably were trying to match the comics as close as they could.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we get the aftermath there. Interesting comic callbacks. They find Emma Frost in a crystalline diamond body,
hmm Which,
with reference
yeah,
to reference to the Grant Morrison comics.
yeah, and I guess she hadn't used that form that part of her powers yet in the original show because I mean, of course, I remember her being in the original show, but I couldn't remember if she used that
She
part of
didn't.
her. She
So that
didn't.
was that whole jewel form, diamond form, whatever you want to call it, was created later. Um, it specifically was like she was on Genosha when it got sentineled in the original comics, and
Okay.
so but that was like in the 2000s.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, it wouldn't have been in the 90s cartoon.
Yeah.
Um, Now, as far as major plot lines, we find out that the president is sandbagging, helping out the mutants.
Yeah. Well, it's Kelly. I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I forget. Was he? He was originally like the pro mutant guy that they were trying to assassinate to start a race war, or was he anti mutant?
He was anti-mutant, and then he
Oh,
became
that's
pro.
right. They were like, that's right. Mystique was trying to assassinate him so that he would uh, because like, oh, the mutants took out this prominent anti-mutant voice that proves that the mutants are dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
Avenge Senator Kelly.
Yes. Yeah. And that was what kicked off the Days of Future Past storyline.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay. um and so basically outside of recovery efforts, you have the main subplots are Rogue trying to find the inventor of the Sentinels
hmm
and her just being a one-woman engine of destruction.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Ninjas is a yeah. Be glad that I'm in charge preventing another guy who's not in favor. Yeah. That was in the yeah.
Yeah, it's basically look, I'm the devil you know, but the devil you don't know is much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rogue, yeah, she rips apart a U.S. military base. She
And
actually runs into Captain America,
yeah.
and she has a
Well,
little
yeah.
tantrum because he refuses to help her.
Yeah. Yeah. She steals his shield and throws it in the mountains.
Yeah, like throws it miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, Rogue, my hands are tied. Well, if your all hands are tied, then you won't need this shield no more.
Yeah. Yeah. Gee, thanks.
um, let's see here. We do get some more of Roberto and Jubilee.
hmm
I do find it amusing whenever Jubilee introduces herself, considering that in this show, her earrings literally say Jubilee on them.
Yeah.
I forget if they're facing forward or backward with the Jubilee label, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
of course, before that, when she breaks into the base, she runs into Thunderbolt Ross.
oh yeah, I forgot about that. All right, I say I didn't realize it was him. It was probably
Yeah,
just glancing away for a second. So this is the episode where they're getting to act like they're part of the larger Marvel universe.
yeah, yeah. And later on, you see a bunch of billboards and electronic billboards, and there's a Stark Industries one in the
Oh,
background.
nice.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, somebody pointed out that this means that they've finally resolved if Captain America ever got out of that time portal that he was stuck in amazing or in the 90s Spider-Man cartoons.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Since technically, since that did cross over with X-Men a couple of times, is canon to this universe.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, like Rogue is just thanks Beyonder. Yeah, I guess he did fix Cap from being time lost.
Yeah.
But as far as
So yeah, and
yeah,
then she goes to Mexico where Gyrick is.
right, and I find it very interesting that his love is apparently collecting preserved insects.
Yeah,
So there's something very sinister about him just having all these insects pinned onto his wall.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, shows you how evil he is.
Yeah, it's like how he views mutants, I guess.
Yeah.
Like how he views things in general as something to be dissected and pinned, and uh,
Mm.
no concern for them.
Yeah, it's a bit like a certain doctor in Germany and WW2.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, like and Rogue, yeah, Rogue is part of her tear that she's going down. Ends up using her powers on him to forcibly steal the information from his head about
mm.
where Bolivar Trask is.
Yes, and does she find out that that Sinister was behind it? Or that,
I honestly forget if she noticed that Sinister was there.
yeah,
Um, but regardless, we then get to Madripoor. Hey, another lore drop, fictional
yeah,
country.
yeah,
Wolverine likes to hang out there with an eye patch on,
yeah,
and she decides, you know what, uh, renegade for life, and
yeah,
pushes Trask out of a building.
yeah,
And it looks like, oh, Rogue has done a horrible thing. Oh, he's fine.
oh
Oh
yeah,
no,
yeah,
he's fine.
yeah,
Because he turns into a biosentinel who proceeds to curb stomp most of the team.
yes, and it takes Cable showing up to stop him.
Right, and Cable only gets to stop him because he's from the future and knows how to fight these biosentinels.
Yeah, yeah, and of course it's that moment there when Scott realizes that Cable is his son Nathan.
Yeah, yeah, that was that's another one of those moments where that's the only time this episode where the show's breakneck pacing felt a little bit in evidence.
Hmm.
Most of the rest of it flowed perfectly fine.
Yeah, yeah, and Ninja asks, "How was the Twitter fallout from Rogue attempting to murder?" Pretty
Uh,
weird, actually.
I'm guessing that there were a lot of people who, I mean, there's a certain percentage of people who will support a character doing anything because they are the main character.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that's basically what happened. And then there were some people who were like, you know, John Walker and Falcon and Winter Soldier basically did the same thing, and the same people were cheering Rogue were calling John Walker a monster. Which, yeah,
yeah, it's funny how some characters just get a free pass, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Like
Although,
I personally saw it as like a Rogue taking a step too far, but
yeah, 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 I did too. But I mean, it's of course, grief makes people do really sometimes really make them do really bad things, and
right, it's understandable, and I got why she did it. It's just like,
yeah.
that isn't exactly heroic.
No, it's like Superman breaking Zod's neck. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Only without the there wasn't a ticking time bomb of Trask actually threatening somebody in front of her to like that's part of your justification for Zod. Like, okay, what else was Superman supposed to do to force somebody who was at least as strong as he was away from blasting those people with his heat vision?
Right. Yeah.
Now you can take issue with the screenwriter and the director putting Superman in that situation, but if you put him in that situation with those parameters, it's like, okay, you've kind of forced his hand a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Ninjas. Yeah. Mutant privilege. Yeah. He said, based on the clips I see, at least the X-Men didn't approve. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they probably would have had a nice conversation with Rogue if they hadn't immediately had a sentinelized Bolivar Trask punching their teeth out.
Right. Yeah.
Um, then the other thing they kind of introduced was the character of Bastion, who I'm going to admit I read a few comics back in the day with Bastion in it. I do not remember much about him.
Mm.
I know that he's involved with the Sentinel stuff, but I honestly, if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't discount the idea that he was a mutant who had turned on his people, or if he just has Sentinel powers.
Okay.
So this is kind of like when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and I was like, I know two of these characters, so the rest of this can just be a surprise for me. That's special with a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Similar way that's a gap in my X-Men knowledge.
Okay.
So he definitely is playing up the whole creepy angle. I think it's very strange that they're trying to turn a purple people eater into a scary song, but they
Yeah.
kind of make it work a little bit
Yeah.
because you know what? First he shows up with not Trask, Gyrick
Kyrie. Yeah.
in a hospital bed, and as he enters the room, the radio suddenly turns to Purple People Eater.
Yeah.
And then after he did he actually kill Gyrick or did he just?
Yeah. He smothered him.
Oh, that's right, that's right. And then then the radio shut off when he left.
Yeah.
And then you find out that Magneto is alive.
It's
And,
not a
and
big surprise, but yeah.
no, because he was the least beat. Like he was not terribly beat up.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's it's comic rules, right? If there's a flash of light and there's no body afterwards, the character's probably alive.
Yeah.
And it was oddly sadistic and creepy watching Bastion forcibly shave him while he was strapped to a barber chair.
Yeah. A little it rubs the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the
Yeah.
hose again.
Yeah, the speculation I'm seeing is that they're going to try to turn him into a biosentinel as well to
Mm.
fight the X-Men. But so overall, I'd say that it was nice to see Rogue get some character moments,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
She
because.
lives. Yeah. She lives up to her name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. She often does kind of play it by the rules when things are going well for her.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Um, Daniel, how would you categorize the animation this episode?
I thought it was good. Yeah. It's yeah. It was the animation. I think overall in the series has been decent. Although I think you pointed it out last week, occasional frame rate drops here and there, but not nothing too horrible.
Yeah, I honestly thought that was not nearly as much of a problem this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they joke sometimes about saving the budget for a special episode, and you would have thought that it would have been the Janosh episode, but it almost felt like this episode. Like
Yeah.
I'm actually taking a moment to watch on silent a quick Marvel versus Capcom video to see if because there's this one bit where she's fighting the U.S. military, and she does this maneuver where she gets into the air, then she like rider kicks down at terminal velocity down into the ground,
Yeah.
propelled by her flight powers. That I swore was a reference to that game, but I couldn't find any like references to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Xavier, when he comes back, really, Rogue, you guys can't go 1 year without me.
Look, the problem was you left everything in Magneto's hands, and technically, if you look at it, Magneto has a long history of screw ups, aka every time the X-Men beat him.
Yes.
I don't know what you expected.
Yeah.
But yeah, the animation this episode was like, as far as fight animation, I found myself thinking, wow, this is like good Western action animation.
Yeah.
Usually you don't get that. That's the closest we usually get is like Peter Griffin punching a giant chicken.
Yeah.
And even then, that isn't good animation. It's like some decent choreography.
Yeah.
But this was smooth.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So I think they're really getting into their stride production-wise here. So that's very encouraging.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I thought this was a really great episode. Definitely a step up from last week. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Storm. They think they're giving Storm shine this season. They are really not now.
No, they're not. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I was pleased with it. Yeah.
Also, they're acknowledging that the X-Men have been lying about Professor X being dead. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that, because
Yeah.
Bastion is about to reveal that nope, he's still alive and with aliens.
Yeah.
X-Men have been trying to milk sympathy for a while now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yep. Yeah, so I'll call this, like, for me personally, not remembering anything about Bastion. I don't think I ever read to the end of his story. That might have been happening around when I was getting out of the comic books in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's going to be nice to have some more mystery.
Yeah, and it just says it's the Cyclops and Rogue show.
It
Yeah,
really is.
those two seem to be the characters they're highlighting the most.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. We did find out about Sunspot. His family knew he was a mutant the whole time, and
Mhm.
they did the kind of the usual mutants as metaphor for being in the closet thing. Where it's like, oh, it was
Yeah,
your secret to tell us.
right. Yeah. And yeah, and but then they said, well, but you can't. They don't want him coming out as a mutant because that would hurt their business.
Right, because so it's a little bit on the nose there. I feel like I want to like that, like the whole subplot with Sunspot and Jubilee more than I do, but it keeps getting like little moments, and it doesn't like it isn't that interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little too teen soap opera-y for my taste.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I always did like Jubilee, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I've just outgrown the character.
Well, I think they put her in the original show because she was meant to be kind of like like a stand-in for the younger audience.
I want to say that they invented her for the comics because Kitty Pryde had grown up too much.
Mm, that makes sense.
That's half memory, half speculation, but it works functionally.
Yeah. Oh, and it just says at least Roberto's father is not part of the Hellfire Club yet.
Yep, but yeah, I mean overall, it's just a good continuation of the storyline we've been following, and
Yes,
with really fantastic animation.
indeed. Yeah.
Speaking of wheat,
We. Ugh.
so Daniel watched this. I didn't. I'd actually considered it, but then a couple nights this week were taken up by a beloved family pet having to be put down due to cancer. So, Daniel, was this better or worse than the cat being put to sleep?
Tough call. That's a tough call. Um, yeah. So I took one for the team here and watched Rebel Moon Part Two. Um, and it picks up where Part One leaves off, and we get a nice little recap narration from Sir Anthony Hopkins. Um, and so the band of heroes, quote unquote, return to what was the name of the planet? Uh,
Farmlandia.
yeah, Velt. Velts, yeah. So they return to Velts, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't have to worry about it because the admiral's dead, and the ship's gonna go back to the Mother World, I think was the name of the planet." And then, but then they're like, but then the young soldier that went native, who's been kind of like reporting to the Empire, that like, oh yeah, everything's fine here, nothing new to report.
How
uh
are you?
how are you? Yeah. um Said, oh no, actually the admiral with the Germany World War WW2 haircut is actually still alive. Probably the most annoying and silly cartoonish villain I think I've ever seen in a movie. And so they're on their way to Velt, and they decide, okay, well, we got to harvest all the grain, and they're gonna they come up with a plan. So they harvest all the grain. They have to do it in 3 days. Of course, they're this is a major intergalactic spacefaring civilization, and they're harvesting grain the old-fashioned way.
Right. And that is part of the silly thing about this setting. I have watched a few reviews of it, though I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
But I remember from the first movie, they never really say that this planet is a bunch of intentional Luddites. Because like I could actually
yeah.
see that, like oh yeah, the galaxy is too hustle and bustle. We're gonna get a bunch of other Luddites, and we're going to go live the old-fashioned way. Except that they
Yeah.
have like hovercraft that they use still.
Yeah, it makes no sense. But the plan that the General Titus actually, that's Dujimon Hansu's character. He's actually like a leader. He actually, I'll give him credit for that. He actually is acting like a general. Um, and so they come up with a plan. They get all the grain and they put it around the buildings in the village to keep the dreadnought from firing on
Right.
them and destroying them.
Right, because they basically it's like they acknowledge, okay, they could just orbital bombard us and wipe us out, but they want our wheat so badly.
Yes, yeah. Um, uh, so they just decided to make the payment in the first film. The thing that is the reason for this mess. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Um, and so
Well,
then,
I don't think it's so much that they make the payment. It sounds like they are baiting them with the payment. The wheat is almost a hostage.
yeah, basically, yeah. And so then they come up with this whole convoluted plan to like basically lure them all down and just start picking them off. And then Cora, and her boy toy, what was his name? Gunner. They get into the ship that she crashed. And I remember them talking about this in part one. Like she crashed her ship on this planet, and then she stayed with them. Well, they pull the drop ship out, and so apparently it still works.
Convenient.
Convenience, yeah. And they use that drop ship, and so they get in the drop ship and they fly up to the dreadnought, and they're gonna blow up she's gonna get on there and blow the dreadnought up. That's that's basically the last 2/3 of the movie. Um,
So Daniel, I hear that the first hour of the movie is basically slow motion shots of people harvesting wheat. How accurate is that?
it's pretty accurate, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and then a lot of and if you like the pointless flashbacks in part one, there are more of them in part two.
Okay, so how accurate is this? I heard that basically it's like all the characters sat down at a table and spouted their backstories to each other, and everybody basically had the same backstory.
Yes. Yes, that is a scene in the movie. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, and then they had of course then they have the flashback scene for when the king and the other royal family members are assassinated, and per Zack Snyder edginess during that scene, there's an orchestra playing in the back, off to the side, is playing music as the king and queen and the princess are being assassinated.
And the band played on.
Yes, yeah.
So Korra's an awful person, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. um, yeah, and it's just, yeah, it was, yeah, uh, it, it's about what you would expect from a Zack Snyder movie. It's just so pretentious, like, um, and it's very it's just not a whole lot for me to get into, because it's just like it's just one thing after another after another after another, and it's just it got so monotonous after a while. And the battle scenes just kept going on, and I'm like, like that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, get on with it.
Yes, get on with it.
Yeah. um yeah.
So I have a serious question for you.
Yeah.
This is just things I've heard in the reviews. So Anthony Hopkins' robot character, who kind of disappeared from the first half of the movie,
Hmm.
does he do anything in the second half of the movie?
Yeah, he takes a tank out.
Now, and I also hear that does he know that Korra is the one who killed the princess he was trying to protect? The entire reason he existed?
I think it's kind of implied that way. Yeah.
He, he never confronts her about this, right?
They do have one scene where they're talking to each other, but they don't. I don't think that ever really comes up. I'm trying to remember. They talk to each other in a cave by a waterfall, and I don't. I'm actually kind of having a hard time remembering what's in there.
So I'm the reason I ask this is because if that's true, that is like the biggest writing fail.
Yeah.
I, I did hear one review saying that it's like it's like Zach kept forgetting why the bad guys were coming back, because it's like everybody kept like saying, "Oh yeah, they're coming back for revenge. Oh, they're coming back for the wheat. Oh, they're coming back for revenge." It's like the characters, it's like all the characters agreed with, like good and bad agreed at the same time, as though they're having secret conversations off camera.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yes, Ninja. It's stupid. Yeah.
That's stupid. This film is stupid. Stop being stupid.
Yeah. Well, what's worse is, at the end of the movie, when that's all it's said and done. Like, okay, so two of the characters end up getting killed. I think it was two of them. So, you remember the Asian woman with the swords?
Yeah, the only cool character.
Yeah, she dies a very very unspectacular death.
Of
Y-
course.
Yeah. And Cora's boyfriend dies.
I mean, the one character who she had any sort of attachment to.
Yes.
I see you doing your DBZ reference, DBZ abridged references down there, Ninja.
Yeah. But what was worse was, at the during the group funeral scene for all the people who died. Uh, General Titus reveals to Korra that the princess isn't really dead.
Wasn't the princess reincarnated as that one girl who the robot had a connection to?
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't. But they just, well, like when Korra shoots the princess, like she has all this like white light that comes out of her, and I remember, like, in the first one, she like healed a
Oh yeah.
injured animal. And so yeah, so Titus tells her, "Oh, she's not so easy to kill." And I'm like, "Oh, jeez, Zach, if you think that you're gonna do another one of these, think again."
So, how would another hour of film time help this movie?
Mm, I have no idea. It
Yeah,
wouldn't.
so you're saying you have no idea, like, what like, so it sounds like in the first one, it felt like there was, like, a lot of rushed character introductions, and
Yeah,
it feels like in this one, it's like they tried to backfill it,
yeah,
um, but it's like in the first one, I could see where they could have more scenes, but it sounds like everything I've heard from this one, you're wondering where the hell did they get another hour of footage for this?
yeah, yeah. I have no idea. Unless they like, unless there's like more scenes from the backstory that they interweave it differently, kind of. Yeah, like kind of like what Zach did with Justice League, where he just kind of like took different scenes and put them in different places.
So we might have yodeling Icelanders, singing a song to Korra.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Uh,
Uh,
so it sounds like there's no particular reason for me to go back and give this a look.
no, no, I don't know. You save yourself 2 hours and watch something actually worth watching.
Speaking of things that are more or less worth watching,
Yes.
Spy Family, Code White.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I went to the movies on last Friday. I'll say that this had a reasonably full theater.
Hmm,
Also, props to Crunchyroll. It was available subbed and dubbed. I watched it subbed because that's how I watch Spy Family usually.
yeah. So you got to hear Anya refer to herself in the third person.
Over and over again, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anytime you're doing this sort of spin-off movie, you kind of have a hard time of it,
Mm,
in the sense that you want something that will please the fans, but won't be completely confusing to a rando who wanders into the movie theater.
right. Yeah.
So as far as setting up the overall premise of the show, I think they do a good job. I would say, if I'm just going by this movie poster, this movie poster is kind of a lie because they neither spend much time at the school. Actually, that's upside down? I can't tell what that building is supposed to be.
I can't tell either.
Because that might be the Zeppelin that's in the last part of the movie.
Oh, that
I don't
might
know.
actually. I think that. Yeah, I think that is the Zeppelin because I see the top part. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that if that's the case, then that is accurate.
Mm,
All right. So basic rundown of the show. If you haven't seen it, there's a spy and an assassin. They are fake married to each other for their missions. They are unaware of each other's missions. The X factor is they have a psychic daughter, a psychic fake daughter, who she can read their minds, but she can't always understand what they're actually trying to do.
right. Yeah.
She also has a psychic, or she also has a telepathic, or she has a clairvoyant dog whose mind she can read, yeah,
Yes.
which gives her insight into things that are going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say that as far as the actual storyline goes, the movie has kind of a flimsy premise, if I'm perfectly honest.
Ooh.
So the plot of the show is that Anya is trying to basically Anya is trying to infiltrate the social circle of that boy to the left of her, who is totally not tsundere for her, totally not,
Yeah. Yeah.
because his dad is involved with shenanigans that the spy father is trying to find out about.
Right.
And as part of that, there's always the attempts to get her these special stars at the school, because if she could become a imperial scholar, whatever they call it, then that'll raise her profile enough that he might get invited in and join the evil guy's social circle.
Yes. The only problem is that Anya is really stupid.
Yeah, Anya is an idiot and may be a year younger than she is pretending to be.
Yeah.
I think it's a little ambiguous, but it would not be impossible that she's actually a 4-year-old trying to go to kindergarten at an elite school. So
Yeah. Yeah.
not an easy go of it.
Yeah.
So they're having a contest at the school to try different desserts, or to make dessert.
Mm,
It's like they'll get the ingredients together and they'll get access to this kitchen and they'll make dessert, and the best winner, or the one that wins, gets a one of the special imperial stars. Well, Lloyd knows that the vice principal, who is uh, the vice principal, who is going to be the judge, comes from this town to the north, and that his favorite dessert is this obscure fruit meringue dish. He knows this because he is a super spy and is just hyper. He has like a photographic memory.
Yes.
He kind of has to pass this off as, oh, I just read it in the school newspaper or some such.
Yeah.
Now, mixed in with this, Yor, the fake wife, sees Lloyd hanging out with another female spy briefly, and from the angle, it looks like he's kissing her.
Oh.
And one of her coworkers says, "Oh yeah, there's always the signs that your husband is cheating on you. He goes on mysterious trips, unexpected gifts, and I forget what the third sign was, but."
Yeah.
So, of course, what does Lloyd propose? Oh, we're going to go up to this town in the north, and you'll get to try this dessert, so you can learn how to make it better.
Yeah.
Which Yor goes, oh, unexpected trips. Like, even though it wouldn't really count if if he brings his wife on the trip.
Yeah.
But Yor is not a terribly smart character either, if we're being totally honest
No,
here.
yeah. Yours a little clueless. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so while they're up there, yeah, they order this dessert, but an evil local general walks into the restaurant and says, that's the last of that cake. Well, I want it. And so they take the cake and give it to him. And at some point, Anya ends up eating a chocolate that has a microfilm hidden inside of it.
Okay.
And so the evil minions are out to try to track her down. So Ninja asks, aren't all the characters dumb in some way? Yeah, though. Okay, so with Lloyd, it's very questionable just how incurious he is about things going on in his personal life. It's like he thinks that he knows everything about Anya and Yor, so he has a sense, like he has a false sense of security, and he never really questions anything happening in his home life too closely.
Yeah.
Because of course, if he did, the show would be over.
Right. Yeah.
She's enough of an airhead that you can kind of see her not noticing things about Lloyd.
Yeah.
But Lloyd's cluelessness is always like one of the more egregious parts of the series.
Yeah.
This movie this movie, which is non-canon, kind of takes this up to 11 that he would not have noticed anything was wrong or
Yeah.
anything was weird. The best way to put it from a plot perspective is if this got a pitch meeting, there'd be a lot of, so the movie can happen. I'm going to have to ask you to get all the way off my back.
Yeah.
For a lot of the elements of this.
Yeah.
Because it's all in the service of getting the three of them separate from each other on this Zeppelin as it's crashing.
Yeah.
And they Yor has this guy with a flamethrower that she has to fight. Lloyd has to infiltrate the ship. Anya has been kidnapped, and the bad guys are trying to make her poop out the microfilm.
Yeah.
I hate to say like this is kind of a turn your brain off movie, but it's kind of a turn your brain off movie. Because I kind of found myself thinking, okay, so like one of the things that Lloyd can do is that he is very good at disguises.
Mhm.
Specifically, he rips off Lupin the Third in that he has like a bunch of these very perfect like masks and stuff. Like they move perfectly. Nobody ever notices he's wearing a mask. You just kind of ignore it because it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
And this is my memory of it. Usually, like it would have to be something that he would have to prepare in advance. Like he would have to know that he was going to disguise himself as somebody to have a rubber mask ready to go.
Yeah, like Mission Impossible. Yeah.
Right. I had always thought that it operated on the same rules.
Yeah.
Lloyd gets a few of these disguises over the course of the movie where, like the first one where he's perfectly looks like this woman that he had been seducing. Like, and this is like the preliminary scene that That's like at the start of the movie, like every character gets a preliminary scene to show off their talents.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he probably just had a disguise of her ready to go. Um, but when he's on this Zeppelin that he wasn't planning to get onto, and he's disguised himself as an older officer who he happened to run into as he was infiltrating the ship, that kind of strained my credulity there.
Yeah.
Similarly, the way that Yor beats the villain that she's fighting, it's like, I don't think that would work that way.
Oh.
Like it's cool and it's neat that it was a neat little Easter egg callback, but to something that happened earlier in the movie. But still, it's just. And also, like, if the movie ends with the three of them working together to try to keep the ship from crashing into a town, it's like, Lloyd, if he wasn't holding the idiot ball, Yor said that she just jumped onto the airplane I was using to get onto this Zeppelin. Why did she do that? How did she get here? Didn't anybody see her? Why wasn't she shot by bad guys?
Yeah.
I wonder how she got here.
Yeah. These are important questions you have to ask.
Right. But again, Lloyd is just so that the movie can happen.
Yeah.
Lloyd kind of just isn't curious about anything that involves his immediate family, and I'm going to have to ask you to get all the way off my back about that. Also, extended scenes of little girls having to go to the bathroom are tight.
Oh.
Now, I say that, but it actually was kind of funny the way they did it because the expressions they animated Anya with as she's trying to hold it in. Like they had a lot of fun with that. Like she had like fantasies and stuff like that.
Okay.
Now, would I recommend this movie? If you're a fan of the show, it's basically an extended episode of the show.
Okay.
I would say that this feels more contrived than the show usually feels. So in terms of quality, it's kind of like the Dragon Ball movies. You can't really plug those movies into continuity anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And if you ask yourself, well, since when can this character do that power? Shut up and stop thinking about it.
Okay.
We needed this for the movie. Shut up.
Yeah.
Wait, if Frieza had a brother, wouldn't he have been mentioned at all in the manga? Shut up. We need the movie to happen.
Yeah.
So it's a similar sort of vibe here.
Yeah. Don't ask questions. Just consume product.
Yes. So I'll say that from a production perspective, it's very well done. There's some really amazing animation, especially in the back half of the movie. It's just kind of, you have to take the movie as it is. Yeah. And I would say that it's enjoyable. I don't know if I'm going to go rush out to watch it again.
Yeah. It's like the kids' Space Wizard films.
Yeah. Ninja says it's an anime movie. It's like the kids' Space Wizard films. Yeah, I don't know. I feel that with, like, if I compare it to My Hero Academia, Two Heroes, or whatever the name of that one we reviewed a few weeks back.
Oh yeah.
That movie had way less yada yada, so that the movie can happen. I'm gonna have to ask you to get all the way off my back.
Yeah.
Like that one more or less fit together. Like you had to, they left out the one character who could have solved the whole plot intentionally, but still, it's like,
yeah.
That's a minor ask. This movie asks quite a bit of you.
Yeah. Okay.
So would I say, I don't necessarily say rush out to theaters to watch it. This is probably going to come to Crunchyroll at some point this year, so you're probably safe waiting for that.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. It was Die Hard with superheroes.
Yeah. But yeah, at the same time, I'm going to just say it would be hard to ramp up the action of the show without having the characters interact with each other in a way where you question how they don't figure out that something is weird about their family members.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to leave Yor out, or you'd have to leave Lloyd out, and usually the show does that. Like they never intersect with each other when weird things are happening.
Yeah, like
But
like the cruise ship. Yeah.
right, like the cruise ship arc. Anya figures out that Yor is there. Lloyd never does. Because Lloyd never figures it out, it's plausible that he doesn't figure out that Yor is a super assassin after she fights off a whole ship full of assassins.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I will say one of the funnier things they did, or not funnier, cooler, fan
Mm,
servicey. I don't know. One of the things that they did was they had when Yor killed a bad guy in her opening scene,
yeah.
the blood spray from the guy painted a rose on the wall behind her.
Yeah.
I also say this show can, or this movie continues the trend of, I swear there was at least one fist fight at the studio that animated this, fighting over who got to lovingly animate inconsequential moments with Yor, because
Yeah.
it feels like the camera is in love with her.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, I don't have any confirmation of this. I'm just
Yeah,
saying it would not surprise me if I found out that there had been at least one fist fight or at least one bitter argument about who got to animate what.
yeah.
But I think that's all I really have to say about this. Yeah, it's kind of a turn your brain off movie. If you feel like going to the movie theaters, it's not a bad watch. But and there's probably some benefits to seeing it in the cinema, but it's also going to be fine on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
Speaking of fine on Crunchyroll,
Yes.
Kaiju number 8, the anime. We gave it the old 2 episode rule.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So this is an interesting series, I thought, interesting start to the series. So it's basically
One
set in a
sec.
world of where kaiju are a thing, and they attack Japan pretty regularly. And there's a group of special forces type people who they don't wear mech suits. They don't wear any kind of robot suits or anything. They just have really big, powerful guns that can take out the kaiju.
Right. Now, you get a little bit of this at the end of the second episode. The suits are special. It's just, it's weird. Like, they wear these suits that are powered off of their own ki, almost, is the best way to like put it, or like their
Yeah,
own natural energy. They're midi chlorians, whatever you whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
But they don't, like, in the 2 episodes we watched, they don't really get into it.
no, and it's still pretty early. But we meet the main character, and I'm spacing on his name. Um,
As am I.
but he's in his 30s, and they
Kafka Hibino.
Kafka. Yeah, and he's okay. So the ninja says the suits are mech suits, and the weapons are made from okay. And so Kafka is working. He's not one of the special soldiers, although he wanted to be one, but he couldn't pass the entrance exam, so he's working the cleanup duty. So he's one of the guys who chops the kaiju up, and takes all the parts out and everything. Kind of like it's that sort of reminded me of uh, the Ron Perlman in uh, Pacific Rim.
Oh, see, I thought you
Yeah.
were going to compare it to Damage Control from the Marvel comics.
Oh, that too. Yeah, damage control. Yeah. Um, but yeah. So they have to they cut it up using all this different power tools, and of course Kafka. One day he gets put on the intestine duty, which is animated rather interestingly.
Yeah, yeah, I would almost be curious to watch this on Blu-ray to see if they actually animated all of the awful and waste spewing out of the intestines, or if
Yeah.
if it was all digital all the way down.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be curious to see that too. Yeah.
A lot of censorship going on.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. And so and then Kafka gets there's a new young guy starts working there. And I'm spacing on his name too. Uh, let's see.
Kafka, Reno.
Reno. Okay. Yeah, and so and he basically calls him sir all the time because he's like his obviously his superior. Um,
Right, he's very much like a typical. He has a sort of respectfulness and deference that you usually see in like Japanese salaryman characters or Japanese military characters.
yeah, yeah, and so he so they start working together, and then the they have another like a small kaiju attack where starts coming after them, and during this they meet they encounter one of of course Kafka gets really hurt. He gets hurt really badly,
Hmm.
and the leader of one of the teams is his old Kafka's old childhood friend Mina, and when they were kids, a kaiju attacked their town, and they decided together that they were going to become part of this special team, and
Right,
yeah,
and she got there, and she's like the world's #1 hero,
yeah,
and he's on intestine duty.
yeah. But then then they're in the hospital, and then the Kafka sees this little flying kaiju thing,
Hmm.
and he says, "Found you," and well, yes,
And then he turns into the titular Kaiju #8.
yes, yeah, he's a like a human form kaiju, and he has all of the attributes of a kaiju, but without the mindless monsterness.
Yes, and so here's what I'll say about this show. So it has some heavy themes it's dealing with. It's like a big, so it's a not a end of the world scenario, but it actually really reminds me of My Hero Academia in terms of stakes and tone.
Mhm.
It's like kaiju are a problem, but they're a problem that the military has a solution for.
Yeah,
But and over the course, so I read the manga a while back. I eventually petered out on it, but I decided that it would be fun to see how they adapted it into a show.
okay.
Because I kind of felt like the manga kind of almost had the X-Men '97 problem, where it felt like a lot of the plot was on fast forward.
Mm,
So I actually kind of thought to myself, being animated might actually help it because they might introduce some more space and filler.
mm, okay.
So it might help the pacing a bit.
Mm,
But so it's a serious scenario, and it's also like it's serious for him. He's older. This is his last chance to maybe get into the military
yeah.
and do what he wanted to do. When he turns into Kaiju #8, he becomes a gag character almost.
Yeah. Yeah, because he does there's a standard trope of where somebody gets superpowers, and then he doesn't know how to use them at first, and he just makes the situation worse. He causes a lot of damage, and
Right.
yeah, and he scares people. Yeah,
An old man sees them and he tries to. He accidentally knocks the wall down,
yeah, yeah,
trying to close the door.
yeah,
He goes to open the window. He proceeds to rip the side of the building off.
yeah,
Um, and then like he feels like, oh, I have to pee. Well, where are you going to pee out of? I don't see any junk down there. I don't know.
uh,
And then it's through his nipples.
yeah,
And oh yeah, and of course he does the thing you'd kind of expect, where he goes and saves he saves a small child from a small kaiju. And he's a surprisingly bloody scene where he punches it once and he one punch mans it
Yeah,
into a literal rain of blood.
yeah, yeah. And Ninja says he's Happy Devil Man.
Yeah, sort of.
Hmm.
Um, and then at the end of the second episode, he does get his chance to rejoin, to take the test one more time, which he's gotten to take the test before. He just always fails the second part.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and they meet a new character at the end of it, Kikoru, who is basically a standard stock tsundere character.
Yes, and she's even got the pigtail hairs, the pigtail hair. Yeah,
Yep. So, Daniel, what do you think of this show? Like,
it's entertaining. Yeah, I think it's really good. I'm curious to see, how they'll the, how they'll work in his powers in with being in the military. Obviously, there'll probably be some instances where he'll like have to. He might have to use his powers, but he can't be around anybody. And it's the old secret identity thing where he's like, oh no, I got nobody can see me like that.
yeah, it's so Kaiju number 8. As soon as I saw that and saw his design, I said, "Oh, this is an Ultra 7 reference." Because
Mhm.
in Ultraman and Ultra 7 and stuff like that, that's the most typical setup, is that you have a guy who's on a military unit who is possessed by Ultraman, whatever that means for the show, or he
Yeah,
is secretly Ultraman, and you wonder why he isn't being why he isn't being court-martialed for constantly being off duty.
yeah. All right.
Um, and Ninja is right. There is more to her once you find out about her, but yeah, as of episode 2, she's just kind of a bratty tsundere.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, what I will say is that this is what really struck me watching this, is that Kafka feels like he's taking the situation less seriously than his buddy does.
yeah. It's yeah. He'll just suddenly shift into his kaiju form. He's like, you can't be in kaiju form right now. Stop that.
Right, and it's weird. Like, you wonder if it's because he's kind of lackadaisical because he kind of thought he would never go anywhere, but it doesn't feel like he's treating this like his last shot like it is, where he now has this secret edge.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a little inconsistent with the character, but yeah, I wonder if that'll get better as the show progresses.
Yeah, honestly, couldn't tell you.
Uh,
Production wise, I will say that I like and don't like the animation at the same time.
uh,
'Cause, like, the actual fights are fluidly done, the kaiju's are very well done.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
this-
yeah, yeah,
is it just me, or is there something sort of weird about how the faces are drawn?
yeah. Um,
I'm gonna quickly grab a couple of images so that you, the viewer, can decide.
yeah. I'm trying to remember, trying to think of what other show that reminds me of.
I'll say that it's kind of different than the manga because, like, if just from like the way the manga is done, if you told me, oh yeah, so the creator was at one point a production assistant for My Hero Academia, I would believe you.
Yeah. Ninja says he said that people were actually mad about the change in the art style, and he said the manga art's better.
Okay, so it wasn't just me going, wait, that isn't what those characters look like.
Yeah,
Like, it's not entirely different, but it's different enough to draw attention.
yeah, yeah. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Right? It's like this weird, uncanny valley of facial drawing.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can get a good manga panel here where they're showing the faces. I mean, of course, if I do a quick image search, everybody's trying to show off the kaiju fight scenes, which is not what I'm after here.
You know.
I just want to see him with like the characters looking like the characters. Yeah, that's close enough. With no context, this wouldn't be a huge spoiler because, of course, they're going to fight kaiju at some point.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that that's a better facial structure than what we're seeing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it feels nitpicky to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. The eyes are bigger in the manga, and they're more expressive.
Yeah, but there's also just like almost flatness to the faces.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if unless yeah, if you're a manga fanatic and you notice that and it bothers you, then guess keep reading the comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I- if you don't have a hole up or if you don't hole if you don't have a stick up your butt like I do about character consistency, then you'll probably have a really good time because it is an exciting show with a cool premise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the main character acting kind of goofy. I guess he kind of acted a little bit goofy before, but it's still it just feels weird that he isn't seriously up in this the way you'd expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? Thanks to Rebel Moon, this is absolutely not the worst thing that any of us watched this week,
That's true.
and it is more or less worthy of your time.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah.
Now, what's on the fence about being worthy of your time?
Yes.
And I can't believe I'm saying this about a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah. Well, some
There
of his
we go.
'90s movies were, eh,
Well,
but
in case you're listening to this instead of watching, John Carpenter's Starman.
yes. One of the I actually I think this was like the last of his '80s movies that I had not seen yet. Um, and it's definitely not what you would expect from him.
No, what I'll say is that John Carpenter movies, multiple different people have at different points of my life taken time out of their watch schedules or whatever to make sure that I saw things like Escape from New York, The Thing, um, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes. Yeah.
I have
Um,
never even heard of this movie until we were scrolling through Netflix for a classic movie to watch.
yeah, I had heard of it, but I didn't, and I knew it was like an alien movie, but I didn't really know like the basic premise of it. Um, but yeah, so the premise of the movie is an alien, the Voyager 2 probe ends up getting uh trapped. It ends up at an alien world, um, and then they send a ship to Earth, and uh, the alien ship ends up crash landing in Wisconsin, and there it's this like full floating ball of energy, and it takes the form of Jeff Bridges, who is the deceased husband of Karen Allen's character.
Right. It basically finds a lock of his hair in a photo album and copies the DNA.
Right. And uh, so uh, so then just of course you have the whole thing with Karen Allen, like, oh my god, my dead husband is alive, and but it's not her husband, and so then he basically kidnaps her, and because he needs to go to Arizona to meet up with the other aliens.
Right. Like he got shot down by the military, and yeah, they go on this 3-day road trip so that he can reunite with his people.
Right, and of course, as you might expect from a movie like this, the government's chasing after them, and we've got our second week in a row watching a movie with Charles Martin Smith, because he plays a guy from SETI, uh, and he's basically the alien expert
What was
in the
Charles Martin Smith last week? Was he in?
American Graffiti.
Oh, okay.
He was Terry, the nerdy guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
he was unrecognizable for me.
Yeah. I mean, well, this
It
movie I
was
think was like
1984. Yeah,
yeah, this is yeah 11 years after American Graffiti. Yeah, so he aged quite a bit.
be
Um,
careful who you make fun of in film high school.
indeed, yeah. um, and so they're tracking him through the country, and of course, Bridges' character being the Starman being the alien. You've got a lot of fish out of water stuff going on with him, and you've got Karen Allen having a lot of mixed emotions with him.
Right.
Being looking like her dead husband, and
But she knows intellectually that it isn't her dead husband, but
yeah,
she slowly falls in love with him too.
yeah, yeah, and so you get one of the things I kind of noticed about this was the the pacing seemed to be a little weird, or they kind of condensed a lot of stuff. Like when they figure, like when Charles Martin Smith figures out that it's the two of them that they're looking for. Like, well, how did he figure that out? They kind of made that leap a
Mm,
little quickly. I guess maybe because of the description from their
mm.
encounters with other people,
Eh,
and
Well, I think they also had tracked the crash to being near her house,
okay, yeah,
as memory serves. So I'm going to be totally honest here with this review. I
yeah,
may have been a little bit distracted while watching this movie because in the course of this, I started getting text messages that they were taking a 19-year-old cat family pet to the pet emergency care.
mm,
So I might have been distracted by being a little bit worried about the cat, but also getting text messages throughout while watching this and trying to get it watched before I had to go.
right, yeah,
So I
okay,
wasn't going back to rewatch certain things.
yeah,
So this is a distracted review, so
yeah.
apologies in advance if I get any details wrong.
Okay. No
Uh,
problem.
uh,
Um,
What I will say is that there's an odd lack of tension in the movie.
yeah. Yeah, you never get the sense that they're ever really in that much danger.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is that you're talking about certain things that seem to happen. They wasted a lot of time in the opening with like the alien spaceship, the
Yeah.
spaceship being shot down, lovingly showing the spaceship crashing with it. A really impressive fireball, actually. I would love to know how they pulled that off without CGI.
Yeah, well, probably a miniature, I'm guessing. Yeah,
Yeah,
cuz
though it was well enough done that I almost wondered, did they actually fling a big flaming ball at a real forest?
I don't
Because
know.
it was the 80s, so the environmental protections weren't what they are now.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll call it a good sign when I'm wondering, wait, is that a miniature or?
Yeah, yeah.
But they wasted quite a bit of time, and it's interesting how long it takes for actual conversations to happen in the movie.
Yeah.
Like 15, 20 minutes in before the alien and the girl start talking.
Yeah. Well, and that could part of that could be like um him having a hard time talking. Just, cuz you
Yep.
watch when you watch the movie, yeah, he has linguistic communication isn't very easy for him.
Right. Though, part of it is that he shows up in his like he shows up, he putters around the house in like first person perspective. You never really see what the Starman looks like naturally.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, and he finds the lock of hair, and you have this detailed zoom in. And it's like it feels like they were trying to show off a little bit. Like, okay, first we're zooming on the hair, then they just go down all the levels of miniaturization. Nowadays, they probably would have had like an actual double helix, but they basically got down to like the cellular level what they're zooming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then he putters around the house as Jeff Bridges. Then she sees him and I think didn't she pass out?
Yeah, eventually, yeah, she passes out. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's what slows it down. It's like you're a decent way of the movie into the movie before he really explains what's going on.
Yeah. Um, and and of course, like you were saying, like they during their road trip, she eventually starts warming up to him, and then uh they get on the train and do the deed, and then of course earlier before
Yeah, and
that
Earth
she
girls are just easy.
yes they are, yeah. But yeah, before that, she tells him that she can't have children,
Right.
but then he tells her, no, you have a baby now.
Oh, probably should have asked you first. Whoops. Oh well.
Oh yeah.
um, yeah. So going back to the lack of tension. I mean, part of it
Mhm.
could be that it's the main guy chasing him is the nerdy guy from American Graffiti.
Graffiti, yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of it would have been okay. So just for example, early scene with him, he's at the crash site,
Mhm.
and he's there with the people who are investigating the crash site. There's like the local geology department or something like that, or
Yeah.
some group of scientists. At this point, the audience knows, oh, that was a spaceship.
Yeah.
So as they're drilling into this spaceship that appears to be a big rock, and they
Mhm.
find out that it's hollow, that could have been a cool moment of realization and discovery, except that the audience knows that
Really.
that it's an alien spaceship because we watched it get shot down, and Jeff Bridges slowly walk out of it
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
first person alien perspective, putter around a house, take on a human guise, and leave
Yeah, yeah.
with his kidnapped human girl.
Right, yeah.
So the scene is a big waste of time.
Yeah.
Now, if the movie had been about an investigator who is trying to find a crashed alien spaceship,
Mhm.
and he discovers that this big rock was hollow inside, and like, oh, this big rock was a spaceship.
Yeah.
Now there's a mystery.
Yeah, yeah, almost kinda like, Captain America: The First Avenger, like, at the beginning of the movie when they see the plane and the ice,
Hmm.
and then they go in and then they go inside, and then they see Cap's frozen body in there, and then they flash back to World War II. Something
Right,
like that, yeah.
right. You could have done a setup like that, but because the audience always knows more than the characters, which is always a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
Because the audience basically knows both sides of it in very great detail. They know that the SETI guy is on the trail. They know the SETI guy is working with the military. They know that the military wants the Starman.
Yeah.
They know where the Starman is at basically all times. They know where the military is at basically all times.
Mhm.
And the military's extensive force, the extent of the military's force is occasionally recruiting local police,
Mhm.
um, having the SETI guy, who again is the nerdy guy from American Graffiti 11 years later,
Yeah.
who does like there's like a military guy who's with him sometimes, who's just an affable guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like we have this grim force that's trying to chase them down.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the climactic scene where they go to where they're at the crater, and they got the helicopter shooting at them, and it's
Yeah, like a dozen helicopters shooting at him.
yeah, like, okay, why?
Like, how did you manage to make a scene with a bunch of military helicopters bearing down on our heroes?
Yeah,
Dull.
yeah.
So, and also like, so a lot of what this movie is. Okay, so like if the movie doesn't have a lot of tension, is the character interactions between our two leads there at least good?
Hmm. Yeah.
I would call it like mid, as the Zoomers like to say.
Yeah, yeah, they were okay. Yeah.
Jeff Bridges pretending to be a stunted or an emotionally incomplete alien. I hate to say this, but Alan Tiddick does it better in the Resident Alien TV show on Sci-Fi,
Ooh.
and that isn't like it's a show that has some good qualities, and one of those good qualities is his performance. So it's
Mm.
a little bit unfair to compare that, considering the man. Like looking at the man, he looks like he's Egger wearing the suit from the first Men in Black movie.
Yeah.
The way he's able to make his muscles contort in that one,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely miss for Carpenter. And part of me wonders if because this was a studio movie. I mean, it was Columbia that did it.
Hmm.
He didn't have very good luck working with doing studio movies. Um, like the Thing, for instance. That you know that that movie bombed badly, and which is unfortunate because it's a really good movie. But the subject matter in it, I think, threw a lot of people off, and he ended up he was actually supposed to direct Firestarter, which was a
Hmm.
Stephen King adaptation, but because the Thing bombed, he had that taken away from him. Um, and Carpenter has a really big, very big personality, and he's definitely one of those guys that likes to work with his own, do his own thing. So having a studio, so I wonder how much studio interference there was in this movie. Is basically what I'm wondering. Um,
Well, I happen to have the Wikipedia page here. The original screenplay was written by Bruce A. Evans and Reynold Gideon, with Dean Reisner making uncredited rewrites.
okay, I wonder. I wonder if one of those. Well, I wonder if one of those writers isn't Carpenter using a pseudonym, because he tended to do that. He did that with the music. Because Carpenter usually did the music on all of his movies, and the person doing the music is Jack Nietzsche. So I think he likes to use weird pseudonyms like that. But yeah, from what I can, if I'm willing to guess, I'm say that none of the writers were him. So yeah, this was probably not one of his.
Okay, this is funny. This is
Yeah,
funny. So the movie started off as Night Skies,
yeah.
um, and apparently, event like the version of the script um, eventually went on to become E.T. Because Columbia abandoned Night Skies with a plot similar to Starman on the ground that it was a more Disney-like story aimed at children, whereas Starman was for a mature audience. Night Skies was eventually retitled E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which became the highest-grossing film of its time. Upon which Reisner commented, "Goes to show you how wrong you can be in this business."
Yeah,
So I guess that Columbia had two similar scripts they were working on at the same time, and they
yeah,
decided to get rid of the kitty one.
yeah. Well, yeah, that explains a lot. But
Also, there was a lot of sci-fi that in a short window here, because it released the same week as David Lynch's Dune, and 1 week after the release of Peter Hyman's film 2010, The Year We Made Contact.
oh wow, yeah. Yeah, and '84 was also Star Trek 3 came out that year too.
Man, they were eating good that year if you were a sci-fi fan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Almost as good as '82.
And that does explain why I kept thinking of ET with this one.
Yeah,
Like the idea of this being like a similar concept, even at the script level, makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
It does kind of show you that part of the fun of ET is that the character couldn't really have a real conversation with you.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like just to kind of kick the movie a little bit more,
Mm,
it felt weirdly preachy, like the whole "he is 100,000 years ahead of us."
yeah.
Like it. At one point, he just upright declares, "You, yeah, that his race is more advanced, but there's like something special and alive about you humans."
Yeah.
It's like I didn't really necessarily feel that the movie had earned that.
Yeah.
I mean, besides him getting to make the beast with two backs with her at that point, but
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Like tonally, it didn't feel like a Carpenter movie because Carpenter is a very cynical guy.
Mhm.
And this movie didn't. It had a little bit of cynicism in it, but not to the degree you normally see with one of his movies.
It's been a while since I've seen what I've seen of ET, but like I feel like even that one had scarier villains than this, which is weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, I guess it just shows the importance of uh, how to put it. It shows the importance that having real tension can have in your script.
yes, yeah,
Because if the main characters can kind of just, man, I think that they existed for 2 of the 3 days of their trip without realizing they were being chased necessarily.
I think no, I think you're right. Yeah,
Which that's a problem if the villains are having so little impact on the hero's storyline that they're totally unaware of them.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Move.
But yeah, like yeah, it's a John Carpenter '80s movie that I see why, unlike his other products, nobody has ever gone, "Oh, you've never seen The Thing before? Oh, you're watching The Thing."
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. You've never seen Escape from New York? We're watching Escape from New York. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I didn't even know this movie existed until last week.
yeah, yeah. Well, everybody has misfires every now and
Yep,
it
we all
never.
have. Uh, uh, yep, everybody has their downtimes. Not everybody. You don't hit every you don't hit every ball thrown at you.
That's yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we have said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed,
Yeah. Well, thank you for everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. Yeah. And we'll see you next week. Night,
Yep.
everybody.
Good night.